What's up, everybody? It's me, E-Man, from E-Man's Movie Reviews. With the Black Widow movie still a few months away, there's still a lingering question looming after the Avenger made her big sacrifice at the end of Avengers Endgame. That question is, did Black Widow actually meet her end, or did Marvel pull a fast one on us? After some news from the Avengers Endgame watch party online, I'm starting to really question whether Black Widow is really dead. Actually, what bothers me is what Marvel is not showing us, and I'm surprised more people aren't calling them out on this. Well, in this video, I'll point out the strange stuff that Marvel has done to keep you all in the dark. Plus, I'll give you my very own theory that could possibly answer the question about how and why I believe Black Widow is still alive. And by the end of this video, this theory could prove why the Black Widow movie is the perfect one to kick off Phase 4 of the MCU. All that coming up next. Spoiler alert for Black Widow. This video may contain potential spoilers for the upcoming Black Widow movie, so please be advised. Okay, so let's get right into it. What seems odd to me is how Marvel seems so reluctant to confirm Black Widow's death. Sure, we got the camera zooming in on her body during Endgame. Then we had some sad Avengers mourning her loss, but there were some other things that got me wondering right after watching the Avengers Endgame online watch party on Twitter. The writers for Avengers Endgame were answering questions and giving commentary on the movie. One interesting thing that stood out to me was when a fan asked about what happened to the Hulk when he did his snap and what did he see in the Infinity Stones. The fan pointed out that Thanos saw Gamora and Iron Man saw his older daughter. So what about Hulk? The writers confirmed that they did in fact write a scene with Hulk talking to Banner, but the scene didn't get filmed. So there are some things to consider with this. I think Marvel pulled the plug on the Hulk talking to Banner because it wouldn't make sense. Consider the fact that Marvel deleted the scene of Tony Stark talking to his daughter in the Soul Stone, which means the deleted scene is not canon. I believe the reason why both of those scenes were scrapped is because neither Stark's daughter or Hulk or Banner were dead. The only reason why Thanos was able to communicate with Gamora was because her soul was in the Soul Stone after she died on Vormir. So that means that only dead people, in a sense, can be contacted in the Soul Stone by someone wielding the Infinity Gauntlet. So now that brings us back to Natasha. Another fan asked the Endgame writers, had Bruce met Natasha in the Soul Stone similar to how Thanos met Gamora after their respective snaps? The Endgame writers responded and said that they thought about it but never shot it. Well, if it is true that someone must actually be dead to communicate with them in the Soul Stone, then I find it very suspicious that the writers would scrap what would have made for a very touching and emotional scene between both Natasha and Bruce. We know that they both had a romantic past and deep feelings for one another. We also saw that Smart Hulk said he tried to bring Natasha back. He never said that he talked to her though. So why did Marvel skip out on that little bit of confirmation? Why wouldn't they show Natasha trapped in the Soul Stone just like Gamora was after they both were sacrificed for the Infinity Stone? Why couldn't they have a funeral for Natasha? Heck, maybe even a tombstone. My point is, Marvel had every opportunity to double down on Black Widow's death, but they didn't. See, what bothers me here is the lack of confirmation and the upcoming Black Widow movie. We all know that in the comics and comic book movies, people don't always have to die or stay dead. So I think that Marvel has been avoiding any final confirmation of Black Widow's death to leave the door open for her surprise return much later on down the road. So how can they bring Black Widow back? Well, there are a couple of theories on how that could happen. Of course, in true internet fashion, there have been a number of theories flying around, but most of them have come up across some big objections that made them pretty much unlikely. One of the first theories to pop up was that maybe the Black Widow we saw that took a leap in Endgame may have actually been a Skrull. Now, the biggest objection to this theory is the fact that the camera lingered on for a while after the death, and the body didn't revert back to its original Skrull form. Sure, maybe Marvel could have duped us and it was a Skrull all along. Maybe they're going to go back and do some fancy camera work and show us that they cut away at the perfect second right before Natasha reverts back into a green Skrull. However, I just think that seems unlikely. And this Skrull theory wouldn't really account for one of the flaws of the Skrulls, being that when they assume the identity of a person, they only have that person's short-term memories. So all those memories and stuff that she had with Hawkeye wouldn't really make much sense. Now, the other popular theory that's been floating around is the Black Widow face swap theory, where her and her Red Room sister Yelena switched faces, and the theory suggests that it was actually Yelena that took the big plunge at the end of Endgame instead of Natasha. Well, I've laid out multiple reasons why I believe that theory is bunk, and you can check that out in my other video. Now, there is one theory that I do think could easily explain how Black Widow can still be alive. The theory I'm referring to is my previous theory of Black Widow being a clone. I gave all the reasons and clues as to how I arrived to that conclusion, so if you want more details, you can always go check out my previous video for more on that. However, I'd like to present to you a newer version of that clone theory that I think would be, well, just much more fun as a story. And if you stay tuned till the end, you'll understand my explanation as to why Black Widow is a major player for Phase 4 of the MCU. Now, after the events of Captain America Civil War, Natasha was on the run from the government, given the fact that she was in violation of the Sokovia Accords when she aided and abetted Captain America. So naturally, Natasha has to evade the World Security Council, which has given authority to Secretary of State Thunderbolt Ross to go and arrest her. Now, here's the thing. For as great of a spy as Natasha is, I still think that she would need some help in evading such a powerful government entity. So it's my belief that Black Widow would have to get some help from one of her most trusted allies to get her out of an impossible bind. Enter Nick Fury. Now stick with me here because this is where it gets a little bit more interesting. Since the Black Widow movie does take place after the events of Captain America Civil War, I want to give you a clear picture of what was going on during that time. So let's recall that in 2014, after S.H.I.E.L.D. imploded with the big Hydra reveal in Winter Soldier, a number of interesting things happened. During the Winter Soldier event, Nick Fury faked his death in order to stay off the radar. If we're to consider Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. as canon for the MCU, then we also know that Nick Fury left Agent Coulson in charge of S.H.I.E.L.D. Later in 2015, during Age of Ultron, we saw Fury had been busy secretly working with Phil Coulson on various projects like the Theta Protocol, which was a hidden helicarrier that was off the books for emergency purposes. So it's fair to say that Nick Fury not only is well connected with resources, but he's also been working on multiple projects or missions behind the scenes. And this is where I believe his connection with Black Widow could be even more enticing. With Fury's knowledge and resources, he could help Natasha escape capture from General Ross by getting her off of the radar. Rather than faking her death, I believe that Fury has gone a step deeper and actually cloned Natasha Romanoff. But that raises so many questions. Why would Fury clone Black Widow? And how could he do it? Well, let me answer that for you. And let's start off with the how first, because the why is much more fun to think about later. Keep in mind that the MCU has established a number of technological revolutions. One of those advanced technologies was thanks to Dr. Cho in Age of Ultron. When Hawkeye got injured, it was said that her device could literally recreate tissue. Well, if her machine could recreate tissue, then it can obviously create a living body. And we did see that with the creation of Vision after all. But even if Fury was able to make a clone of Natasha, you would still need to explain how this clone would be able to think and act like her. And you'd need that clone to be able to seamlessly interact with the other Avengers. Obviously, a clone would be clueless and probably act like a newborn baby or something. That is, unless you initiate Project Tahiti. Not only does Fury have access to Dr. Cho's technology, but S.H.I.E.L.D. also had access to alien technology too. Remember Agent Coulson, who died in the first Avengers movie? Well, spoiler alert, he was brought back to life thanks to Kree technology that not only brought him back to life, but it also included memory replacement. So Fury could have used Dr. Cho's technology to create Black Widow's body and the Kree technology from Project Tahiti to create an exact replica of Black Widow. So what I'm saying is that either right before or right after the events of the Black Widow movie, the Black Widow we've been seeing all this time in Endgame could have easily been a clone of Natasha Romanoff. Remember those other theories I was talking about earlier? Well, this clone theory actually passes the 4 tests that both the Skrull and the face swap theory fail to meet. Number 1, the hair test. Having the clone be in place could actually address why Natasha dyed her hair blonde, and when it started growing out again, her hair was the natural red color. Number 2, the Red Skull test. Remember back in Endgame, Red Skull was able to identify Natasha's father. By having the same DNA, they technically would have the same father. Test number 3, the HAWKEYE test. Having memory replacement done on the clone would give the clone all the memories it needs to remember Hawkeye, the Red Room, and all the events of the real Natasha's life. This way, even her closest friend, Hawkeye, wouldn't be able to tell that the Black Widow that took the plunge was actually a clone. And finally, number 4, the snap test. Maybe with the clone being dead and the real Natasha being alive, this could explain why Smart Hulk couldn't communicate or bring Natasha back, because he was always thinking of the real one who is actually alive and not the clone who actually died. Well, if this cloning thing actually happened, that would explain how the Black Widow we've seen in both Infinity War and Avengers Endgame wasn't the original Natasha, and how the clone would be able to practically fool everyone. Okay, now all of that may explain how Black Widow might have been cloned, but now we need to explore the reason why Fury would decide to clone her. Well, it's my belief that Fury has yet another mission for Black Widow. A mission so top secret, even the Avengers couldn't know about it. I believe that Nick Fury has sent Natasha Romanoff under deep cover to investigate Operation Secret Invasion. Yes, for you comic fans, you already know where I'm going with this. For those of you who don't know, let me help you out real quick. In the comics, Secret Invasion was a pretty devious plot by the Skrulls where they started to replace not only humans on Earth, but also some of the world's heroes as well, including some of the Avengers. Also, in the comics, Natasha played a critical role in revealing the plot and helping the heroes defeat the Skrull imposters. We know that Nick Fury has a very good relationship with the Skrulls dating back to the mid-90s in Captain Marvel. This relationship has clearly continued as we saw in the events of Spider-Man Far From Home. In the final scenes, we discovered that Nick Fury was not only being impersonated by the Skrulls, but he has also been working with them on another huge project in space. Presumably, he's working on the new agency called SWORD, which is basically S.H.I.E.L.D. in space. Now, if you believe that the Skrulls were all good, even President of Marvel Studios Kevin Feige has admitted in interviews that the Skrulls are not all one and the same. Just like people, some Skrulls have different motives and agendas. While Talos and his friends may want to help humans, you may have other Skrulls out there who want to do the complete opposite. Also, if you recall in Captain Marvel, there's still one Skrull that has not been accounted for after Captain Marvel tried to capture them. He just vanished into a crowd of people and was never heard from ever since the mid-90s. Did this mysterious Skrull go rogue perhaps? Hard to say since Marvel left that completely wide open. By the way, I did have a video about the mysterious Skrull that you can also go check out for now, and enjoy watching how I miserably fail at guessing who that Skrull might be. Anyway, I think it would only make sense for Fury to enlist the services of the world's best spy, Black Widow, to infiltrate and take on the race of beings that specialize in espionage. After all, Natasha is so good, she was even able to pull a couple of fast ones on the God of Mischief himself. With Infinity War and Endgame completed, and with Black Widow being the very first movie in Phase 4 of the MCU, I think that the Secret Invasion plot would be a rather good story for Marvel to build on in the long run. Imagine the surprise when we discover that for all this time, so many characters, and maybe even some of the MCU heroes that we knew, were actually Skrulls in disguise. And right when we least expect it, Natasha Romanoff reveals to the world that she's not really dead and she comes in to exploit their evil plans. Imagine this, an end credits scene at the end of Black Widow or some other Marvel movie with Hawkeye crying at Natasha's tombstone, and off in the distance, Natasha is watching him while staying out of sight because she's still undercover. Well, that's my Black Widow clone theory. Let me also mention that I do believe that any possibility of Black Widow remaining alive will depend on the box office success of the Black Widow movie. I think that if it tanks, or doesn't do as well, then Black Widow might stay dead. If it does something crazy like $1 billion, then Marvel might find a sneaky way like this to bring her back to life. Anyway, let me know, what do you think about this theory? Do you think Black Widow could still be alive? Do you think she could be a clone? Do you think that Secret Invasion is Marvel's next big move in Phase 4? Do you happen to have your own theory on Black Widow? Let me know in the comments down below so we can talk about it. As always, please keep in mind that these theories are made just for your entertainment, and they could obviously be completely wrong. I hope you enjoyed yourself today, and I thank you so much for taking the time to watch my video. If you've got a friend out there that you think might enjoy this, then please let them know and share this video with them. Anyway, I've got more videos and reviews to do for you all, and until next time, I'll see you all later.